This is The Metro on 1019 WDET. I'm Cary Junior II. When the police make a mistake, who's around to hold them accountable? Sometimes it's courts and attorneys, but in many American cities, including those here in Michigan, there are civilian oversight boards. These boards do various things, including investigating civilian complaints, making disciplinary recommendations, and auditing police departments. The Detroit Board of Police Commissioners was established in the 1970s after widespread claims of police abuse. And today, after the murder of George Floyd and increased scrutiny of police, more pressure is on police commissioners to hold officers accountable and make policing work for everyone. Just before the new year, Detroit welcomed 4 new people to its board of police commissioners, and one of those individuals is Victoria Camille. She is the District 7 commissioner. Why did she run for the position? How can policing improve Detroit? And what does she make of the role of policing in society? To discuss all of this, we have Commissioner Camille with us. Commissioner Camille, welcome to the Metro.
Thanks so much, Cary.
So before running for the commission, you briefly served as the board secretary. What did you learn about the role of board police commissioners, being in that space and being in close proximity to seeing it all go down?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. So in 2023, I did serve as the secretary to the Board of Police Commissioners, learned a lot in that space, had an opportunity to see how much the city structure has influence on the Board of Police Commissioners, and that the city charter positions the board as an independent entity, but actually being independent can be very challenging. I saw opportunities to bring the community's voice in more and to provide more education. A lot of people in the communities throughout Detroit do not know that the Board of Police Commissioners exists or what the role is. Yeah. And I think there's a huge opportunity for that. And then on the heels of that, bringing in that voice so people actually do have control over what policing looks like in Detroit.
Okay. So why ultimately did you decide to run? It was to increase the visibility. How does it work for you?
So my reason for running was to bring that voice in from the community.
Gotcha.
And so, I had been working with grassroots organizations such as the Coalition for Police Transparency and Accountability on efforts to bring to light police brutality that is occurring and to bring in accountability for that. And so definitely in this role that provides more space to do that. And so looking forward to bringing in the community to make decisions around policies as well as how we hold officers accountable to those policies.
I mean, this is significant because you're someone who lives in Detroit. You've experienced and interacted with Detroit's police officers. Mm-hmm. And now you're also saying you want to have a say in how they are regulated, be a part of the voice on the commissioning board. Tell me a little bit about your experience as a Detroiter working with police.
Sure. So
engaging with police, I should
absolutely. So growing up in childhood, I didn't have much interaction with police. Thankfully, my family didn't. My immediate family didn't. It wasn't until I was an adult and started to do some grassroots organizing like block clubs and things like that. And we were looking to solve some issues in our community around activity that was making our communities unsafe. Mm-hmm. And so that really was one of my first interactions with police was looking for help. And in those conversations, a lot of focus was we placed a lot of focus on preventive measures rather than police coming into situations after something's already escalated and then now being a dangerous situation for both the officers as well as the residents. So that was really my first interaction. And it was through that process that I became to learn that we had a police commission and learned more about that. And I thought it was pretty intriguing that we have civilian oversight of law enforcement. And so...
Real quick, did you all find solutions in working with the police at that time?
We did.
Okay.
We did. And like I mentioned, it was those more proactive and preventive solutions that worked better than reactive solutions.
I see.
Yes, absolutely. And then coming to learn more about the Board of Police Commissioners, and then also expanding my grassroots organizing and understanding that not everybody's experience with police is the same. You have residents that are having good experiences and have really good relationships with the police department and lean on them for safety. And then you have some that are being targeted and are having some very traumatic experiences have been shared with me. And so we need to make sure that policing and safety works for everyone, not just for a few.
What you just outlined to me sounds like there's two different experiences you've had. One, which you've worked toward a solution, other times where you've seen police do harm. How does that inform your perspective as someone entering into this role, knowing that both are possible, but we've got to make sure that we're, finding the best solution broadly for the citizens of Detroit?
Absolutely. Is listening, right? So you can't come into a situation assuming what someone's experience is. Is definitely coming to the table and listening. I don't believe that we do that enough as a board. We have public comment where folks can get 2 minutes to speak. And I would like to find ways where we give more voice to the community, because really the police department gets unlimited voice with us. And so that becomes a very one-sided interaction and can develop a one-sided view. And so listening is really critical. And then just understanding that a person's experience is their experience. So I've been thinking about citizen complaints and what we need to do in that space, because oftentimes those complaints will be investigated based on, did the officer follow policy or not? And oftentimes the outcome is that, well, this officer technically didn't break any policy, and so we just move on. But that resident still had an experience that needs to be addressed. And so how do we bring in restorative justice practices where we can make sure that people are heard and find some type of closure to their experience, and that both parties understand the impacts of what they've done, regardless if there's been a technical breach of policy or not? Is
that like a new phase where you want to have some sort of dialogue between officers and community members?
I would love to see that.
Okay.
I would love to see that.
You've also said that your first order of business as a commissioner is to find ways to communicate better with residents about what's going on with the commission. What are your plans for accomplishing those things?
So I've launched a Victoria for Your Voice zine, which is a communication that will go out on a regular basis to provide education as well as invite feedback from the community, whether it's to test their knowledge or to provide feedback about a policy or ideas or approaches to safety, and then going where people are. So making sure to be at those block club meetings, the association meetings, anywhere, religious institutions, unions, wherever people are already gathering, we need to be there to have these conversations. And then, of course, inviting more community members to come to the meetings and come to open office hours. And we'll also be continuing to do door knocking. We door knock when we're running for office. We can certainly door knock while we're in office. I had some of the best and most insightful conversations with community on their porches.
We're in a moment right now when more people are questioning the role of police and public safety in society. You've kind of outlined a little bit of that yourself in your experiences. What do you think police should be doing to keep us safe, and what is the role of others to provide and what is the role of others to provide for safety of people?
I think police should be doing what the people want police to be doing and not taking on more than that. For example, in mental health crisis situations, and I will say that police have stepped up to come into spaces where we don't necessarily have the infrastructure in the city to deal with some of the social challenges that we have. And unfortunately, they've had to step up into places where they're not properly trained. They're not the right tool, right? Like we should be reaching for a hammer and we're actually bringing in a saw.
Right.
So, and that's problematic. So it's really time for leadership across Detroit from at all levels to say, okay, what are the real solutions for the various issues that we have throughout our society, whether it's mental health, whether it's dispute resolution or what have you. And those things don't need to oftentimes sit within the police department. And so I'm looking to, have those conversations and have conversations in community about where would you want police and where would you want a different type of tool. Where would you want to make a different type of outreach and bring someone else in to help you through some of these situations?
You're listening to The Metro on 101.9 WDET. I'm Cary Junior II. I'm speaking with Victoria Camille, the District 7 Detroit Board of Police Commissioner. We're discussing her new role and how she hopes to hold police accountable. Now, Commissioner Camille, what do you think is the biggest thing that needs to change with policing in Detroit?
We need more transparency.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does that look like?
What does that look like? It looks like the community as a whole can understand how often people are having negative experiences with the police, and so that we can't make decisions for ourselves if we don't have all the information. And right now there are union contracts and other types of structures in place that prevent a lot of that information to be coming forward. And that's something that we seriously need to look at. Our city charter indicates that the police forces are, in all cases and at all times, in strict subordination to civil power. And so that civil power is the collection of Detroiters. And so if Detroiters have control of the police department, Detroiters need to be dictating what police do, and they need to have the information in order to do that.
I see. The Detroit's board commissioners have had a number of issues in the recent past. Last year, 8 members missed more than a quarter of the meetings during their terms. And as a result of that, the body has frequently been unable to vote on official business. To the best of your knowledge, why do you think people weren't showing up to the meetings?
This is an extremely challenging role. And I knew that going in. The police commissioners are not paid. This is a volunteer role. And so unless a commissioner is somehow wealthy or retired, we're all working full-time jobs to take care of our families, and then also having family responsibilities as well, in addition to this role, which really should be it's a full-time job.
Right.
You're having oversight of a department that is full-time, fully funded, fully staffed. You can't do oversight as a hobby. It really needs to be something that you can dedicate to. And as much as you may want to, you have all these other responsibilities. So I'm not here to make any excuses for any commissioners and their attendance, because most certainly we sign up for this and we need to do the best that we can to fulfill that responsibility. Sure. However, I am concerned that the structure is not sustainable for commissioners to really give everything that we should to properly represent the residents.
I mean, that was exactly what I was going to say in the follow-up. Is this is a role that if you apply and want to be interested in taking the seat, you know that is a volunteer role. There's a small stipend, but largely this is a volunteer role. So when you take that role, people are expecting, though we know it's not super visible, so we don't know how many people truly understand the value of the commission, although it does provide a lot. When you take that role, you got to do it to its fullest ability. I guess I'm wondering too, as someone who's entering this, knowing what the culture has been, are there any ideas you might have on how to change that culture?
As far as the participation and being present. What I'm putting together is a structure of a volunteer team in the community to say, look, I'm volunteering. I need folks also to volunteer to help spread the information and to bring in the feedback from the community as much as possible. So if you kind of envision what City Council has set up, each council member has a staff. We don't have a staff individually as commissioners. We have a staff that we share, and it's very small and limited in which capacity they can do for us. And so I'm building a team of volunteers so that if there are 3 block club meetings going on the same night, I can be at one, and I have volunteers that are trained up to communicate the information that is in focus at the time in those spaces, as well as for the knocking doors and other ways to reach out to the community. So I've recognized that it's just necessary. You can't do this on your own.
Yeah. Across the country, civilian oversight boards have been viewed as weak because they often can't do much more than make recommendations. They're also not able to affect policing work conditions because that essentially comes down to a contract, a police contract, which is subject to collective bargaining. So essentially, police unions have a say in how officers are disciplined. This is how things are in Detroit as well as other cities, despite what the city charter says. You mentioned that a little bit at the beginning, too. Mm-hmm. You want to change that. Why is it that you want to change that, and how would you do it?
I want to change it because the charter says that Detroiters have control of their police department, not police unions. Mm-hmm. And anytime we have contracts in place that override what's been voted on by the people mm-hmm. who are not negotiating those contracts, we have a real problem there. And so, I'm sorry.
Yeah, help me understand the problem, because couldn't you work with the unions to come together and understand what the proper course of action should be?
Absolutely. And the board needs to work closely with the unions. The board really should be involved in the union negotiations. And these last negotiations, to my understanding, the board was not brought to the table. It was between the mayor and the police chief or whoever else was involved. And so, you know, as a board, we should be sitting down to really pick apart those contracts and understand what components are hampering our ability to hold the department accountable and to properly represent Detroiters, and then be bringing those things to the table to have discussions and make sure we have a contract next time that honors the will of the people.
Is that how you would do it? You would wait till the next contract comes up and then you all want a seat at the table? Or are there other things you'd want to do to make sure that your decisions are held up?
Yeah, well, certainly discussions in advance. Like now, we're not going to wait. We shouldn't wait till the contract, but certainly the next contract negotiations will be a big space to make lasting change.
I want to make sure this makes sense for listeners too. Contract mm-hmm. being the union, because the police officers are employees, therefore they abide by guidelines as employees usually do when they're parts of unions. The commission, you all have your own set of expectations for officers, and they come into conflict when you all decide, hey, an officer has done a certain thing, we want to do X, Y, and Z as a result, and it may not fall within what the union contract says.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And just to add to, so for an example of that is the BOPC may decide, well, based on what we see in this officer's records, we will not decide to promote them. Okay. Then there could be components in the contract that say, no, they are eligible for promotion. And then that officer can be awarded that promotion through arbitration. You know, and similar things happen with discipline as well. Mm-hmm. And so you've got a board where the residents have said, you're the final decision on discipline. You are the approver for promotions. And then you have a union contract that can come in and say, well, we'll override that and just do something different. That's not okay.
I see. I want to turn real quick back to the complaints that you brought up. As a commissioner, your job is to field a number of complaints to police. What does efficiency look like for that when those complaints are fielded and closed?
Mm-hmm. So definitely the systems that we use, and the Office of the Chief Investigator just recently moved, I think it was probably about a year ago, started working on the contract toward the end of the time when I was secretary, a new system to manage the citizen complaints. I really would like to see investigators spending their time talking with the complainants, talking with witnesses, talking with the officers, more so than a lot of like administrative paperwork type things, because we get the most value out of those conversations. Mm-hmm. And so when we have efficient systems for moving those cases, managing those cases, then it helps us to be able to spend more time with people.
And we've been talking a lot about how the commission could change. I want to give you an opportunity with about a minute and a half left, mm-hmm. just to tell me, what do you think the commission does well that you'd like to continue going forward as you enter into this role?
Mm-hmm. So one thing that I think that the commission does well is have meetings out in the community. which I think is, every second Thursday, the meetings are happening in different places in the community. I think we should continue to do that, as well as expand that to have more meetings out in the community in spaces where community members feel comfortable to come, rather than having people come down to public safety headquarters, which is the space that could be triggering for someone who's had a negative experience with police. The other thing that I think, especially with this new board coming in, we have a lot of fresh perspective coming in with the new commissioners, and we need to really capitalize on that, both the unique approaches that we each bring to the table, our unique experiences, and unique relationships we have in the community, in order to bring community into the table to have those discussions. So those are some of the things that top of mind, are things that I think that are doing well, that we need to just continue to do and expand on in order to take the board to the next level.
All right. Victoria Camille, District 7 Detroit Police Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights.
Thank you for having me.
And best of luck going forward.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Coming up, this past summer, Detroit police instituted a curfew to keep kids off the street late at night. Despite their popularity, we'll find out why some experts are against these policies. We'll be right back on the Metro.